You're on.
All right. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners work session. This is on Black Lake Special District, special assessment. It's a follow-up briefing. And if you'd like to join in via conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and your PIN number is 1234. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. Also present is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser, and in the boardroom is Commissioner Gary Edwards, along with the County Manager Ramiro Chavez. And we also have Tim Wilson, Water Resource Manager, and Paula Cracknell, Aquatic Resource Specialist. Ramiro, am I missing anybody?
No, also in the boardroom is Megan Porter, our PIO supervisor.
Wonderful.
My brain's a little bit off today.
That's all right.
More than usual.
Join the club. So thank you. And a decision, this says a decision is needed. Are we making a decision today, or it's information?
No, I believe you need to provide direction at the end of this briefing how the board would like to take the next steps. And probably Tim will walk you through the options that you have. The special use district has requested for you to consider increasing rates to do some treatment. Before you consider that, you need to hold a public hearing. That public hearing was held, and the next step will be whether you like to consider to have a formal action be taken at a later Board of County Commissioners.
All right, thank you. And I see that we have Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell who's joined us, and this briefing is scheduled for 1 hour. So, Tim, you taking it away?
Absolutely.
You got it. Thank you.
Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager, Thurston County Public Works. As mentioned, we also have Paula Cracknell, Aquatic Resource Specialist with the Noxious Weed and Lakes Program in Public Works. I will attempt to share my screen. And with any luck, are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Presentation? Okay, very good. So as mentioned, this is a follow-up to a public hearing that was held on July 28th. The purpose of that hearing was specifically to hear comments related to a special assessment, a role of assessment for the Black Lake Special District as part of efforts by their governing committee to fund a bond, a $1.4 million bond. So I have today, I'll just try to, okay. So bottom line up front for today, the public hearing was held July 28th. Staff has compiled comments received at that public hearing for consideration. I believe you have seen many of those comments, as many of those were sent to your office as well. But we did compile those comments. And yes, we are looking for direction at the end of this this presentation to guide our next actions, and we've offered 3 options for consideration by the board. So the purpose of the public hearing, as required by 8538-160, and persons objecting to the preliminary system or systems of assessment were able to present their objections at the public hearing. The public hearing was advertised as we normally do with a minimum of 20 days advertisement, and there were also direct mailings sent out to all of the affected properties. So the public hearing had a fairly robust turnout. There were 56 comments received, either written or verbal, or in some cases both. we tried to lump them into categories. There were 8 comments received that were in favor of the assessment, 21 comments received that were specifically against the assessment, 25 were neither for or against, but they were opposed to herbicide use in Black Lake, and 5 of the comments were neutral or unclear on a position. So you'll see 56 total. Some fell into a couple categories. So if you total up the number of the bottom 4 categories, I believe it comes to 59 comments. And the reason for that is some were fell into a couple of categories. They may have been against the assessment and opposed to herbicide use. So we lumped them into multiple categories. So just as a reminder of the impact or potential impact out of Black Lake, there are 179 total parcels that would be affected by the proposal. 177 of these are private lakefront owners. The average impact from the special assessment would be $575.42
per year.
Per year, annually for a 20-year period is the proposal. The boat launch, the WDFW property out there would be impacted $17,736 annually for the 20-year period. And the Thurston County parcels combined would be impacted at $10,725 and change annually for a 20-year period.
Tim, is that additional or total?
That is additional in.
So what does the total end up being, both for the boat launch and for Thurston County Parks annually?
The total annually for WDFW's property in Thurston counties is $28,461, it looks like.
Okay.
So the options for
how about the county? What's the county one? Total per year.
So the combined parcels that are owned by the county that would be affected by this would total $10,725.42 annually.
Okay, that's the change, or is that going to be the total? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Apparently, the boat launch, it was $17,000 more than what they were paying for a total of $28,000. Is that right?
I do not have the numbers right now that is part of their regular rates and charges. So I can't answer that question. I can get back to you on that.
I'm gonna need to hear that number, I think. I will also need to hear how the 177 private lakefront owners, it's the 575.42 on top of what is what I would like to hear that too.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, but this is a special assessment for this bond. This is in addition to their typical rates and charges. So the options that are proposed for consideration today, and I consulted with Elizabeth on these, is number one is to approve the ordinance adopting the system of assessment. There didn't seem to be any comments that I heard that came in and said we are in favor of the system of assessment, but our parcel is miscategorized or incorrect or anything like that. So you could approve the ordinance adopting the system of assessment. You also have the authority to amend the system of assessment. So you could take a look at amending any of the parcels within, as long as it comes up to the, as long as it still generates $103,000 annually. or you can not approve the system of assessment, in which case the governing body of Black Lake would need to go back and look for additional funding options or come back with another proposal.
What's the time frame, Tim, that we have to make this decision?
There's no strict time consideration. I believe Black Lake Special District would ultimately like to have this approved. If it does go forward, would like to have it approved in time to be amended and included in the tax rolls for 2021. So I believe, I don't have the cutoff date for that, but typically we need to have our information to the treasurer in early November for that. And Ramiro may be able to help me there, but I believe it's early November.
Yeah, you're just about right.
Hutch, could I ask you something, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
I hate to keep interrupting Tim on these questions, but I'm afraid that I would guess my seatmates are going to be interested in the answers as well. And maybe it's going to be covered farther on, but I know one of the complaints at the hearing was people that lived on in a trailer park situation, apparently, that they did or did not own the lots, and the lots themselves were going to be assessed more. So their whole situation was changing. Are we going to have more information on that as far as, you know, we got the testimony on it, but we didn't hear much from the proposal from the lake the district. And I'm not sure that the information we heard during the public hearing was maybe 100% accurate either, that it could have been. So I've got questions, but I don't know if you're going to cover it all, and I hate to interrupt midstream, or we're never going to get through this.
So let's go ahead and hear the entire presentation, and we'll have a slew of questions. And if we're not comfortable with moving on, there's always option 3, or maybe even another option.
Okay.
Depending on timeline and what information, whatever follow-up we're going to be getting.
So we don't have to do this today or tomorrow. We might have an additional work session that we could put together. Is that right?
Well, it sounds like we might need one if we have significant questions that need to be answered. I've written down 3 questions. I'm just piling these in as we go along so I can get through the presentation and ask, and then we can see where we go from there.
I'll try to refrain from interrupting them.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Tim.
Just regarding future considerations, if option 1 or 2 is considered and the preliminary assessment or amended assessment is adopted, staff would be requesting that the board consider authorizing the issuance of a $1.4 million bond. Prior to that, we would come back with an ordinance adopting that assessment, as I've mentioned. If the preliminary assessment or amended assessment is not adopted, Black Lake Special District would need to revise the proposal or seek other funding options. It would basically stop the process at this point. So one other yeah, those are the options at this point.
Okay.
Are there any questions? It sounds like there are.
Oh, yeah. I included all the comments with my packet, thinking you had a bunch more presentation to get through, but apparently you don't. Let me start with Ty. Go ahead, Ty. Questions?
So on that last slide, I understand that there would be another step, but I would think that it's implicit that the board we're not going to raise people's fees or authorize the raising people's fees if we're not planning to authorize the bond that the whole fee increase is predicated upon. So I would just kind of like to clarify that, to me, those issues are inextricably linked. And if we're going to agree to authorize the fee increase, we're going to be absolutely authorizing the bond. We had public comment yesterday, Tim, about a citizen saying that the special district is limited to flood control activities and basically can't engage in these activities about water quality. And that certainly is not my understanding of what the special district's powers are. I just wanted to double check that with you.
No, that is not my understanding as well. The focus of the special district, one of the major focuses has been vegetation management within the lake. So they were formed in part to manage the vegetation along the shores of Black Lake, and it is, as I understand it, is completely within their purview to address water quality issues.
Could I follow up on that, sir?
Yeah.
Ty?
Yeah,
Ty?
go for it.
Tim, you said management along the edge, weeds along the edge of the lake, or growth along the edge of the lake. Isn't that really managing the weed growth throughout the lake? Maybe not just the edge. I'm wondering about your statement about the edge of the lake.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think most of their efforts have been focused near shore, along the edge, but they could certainly extend out and do vegetation control throughout the lake, probably have. So yes, they could do that as well. And to Commissioner Mentzer's question about the decision going forward, I think you're right. I don't, I guess I wouldn't understand the benefit of approving the special assessment and then not authorizing the bond. But per RCW, the board surely has that ability. Even though you adopt the role of special assessments, you still have the ability to not issue the bond at a later date.
Do you have more questions, Ty?
I think those are all the questions I have in terms of just questions. I'll leave it to you guys.
Okay. Can I jump in, Gary?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Tim, we had the public hearing just about 3 weeks ago. And of all the comments that you totaled up, the 56, 59 comments, does that include any comments subsequent to the public hearing? Were there quite a bit that came in after the public hearing?
Yes, there were some that came in after the public hearing. Those have been included, and it includes everything up until the time of submittal. So last week, when this was submitted, is when they were tallied. We did receive one other comment that I think, or email exchange that I think you received as well this morning regarding another topic at Black Lake.
Okay. And the 21 that are listed against the assessment, are we able to verify, are they all from people that are impacted by the assessment, or they come out from outside the area?
I believe the majority of those are property owners on the lake, but we did not verify that.
Okay. It seems like it would be those that were impacted, but if they clearly live up in the Northeast and they commented about it just based on an overall concern, that means something to me. And I'm looking at option number 3 on the briefing book, and it says, or briefing paper, and it says, if we did not approve the preliminary system of assessment, then would require the Black Lake Special District to consider alternative funding options. What are those alternate funding options available to them?
Well, I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I would say that one option for them would be to create like a reserve fund out of their normal operating fees to do this alum treatment that they're proposing, but that would take a number of years, likely, in order for them to create a reserve. That is similar to what the lake management districts are trying to do through creation of a reserve and trying to be proactive there. Outside of that, Commissioner, I'm not sure what their alternatives would be.
Okay, thank you. And then going back to what we were stating earlier, the amount of increase to the property owners above the $575 is important to me. But also the increase to the Thurston County parks seemed to, what was that, from 17 to, or 10,000 to 28,000, something like that? Where you said the new increase would be 10,007, goes up to.
Yes. Yes. So the $10,725 is in addition to the rates and charges, the regular rates and charges that are already being charged. I don't have that number. Perhaps Paula does, but we do have the spreadsheet, and we can get all of those numbers to you very quickly as far as what each parcel's regular rates and charges are versus what this special assessment additional charge would be.
Robin, do you have that information or no? No?
I
Okay.
have that information.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there are two parcels that Thurston County Park owns, and one of them is currently paying $2,486.16. And the other parcel, which is Kennydale Park, they are currently paying $13,259.12, which totals $15,745.28 for both parcels.
What was the first part, Paula?
So the first parcel is $2,486.16.
Okay. And that's an assessment that the county would pay?
Yes.
And has that been budgeted for at all, Robin?
This is an assessment that we already pay.
Right.
The 2,000 something for the parcel one and the additional, what was the parcel number two? 12,000?
Kennydale.
13,000 for Kennydale.
Right.
That's an assessment that we have been paying for years.
Yes.
Right. But this, if this goes through, it's going to increase, right?
Yeah, and that's something that and I believe that is some of the decisions that you need to make in the upcoming budget.
Okay.
Right. So we would not have budgeted for this because it's not a current fee that we pay.
Okay.
It
And
looks like about 70%.
right. So if the board should approve this bond, then as a payer of the fee, then we would work that into our budget.
Okay. I just want people to be aware that there's a budget consideration as well. All right. Go ahead, Gary, if you have further.
Yes. I'm curious, Tim, and maybe you don't know the answer at this point, but maybe you can find out for some future discussion on this. During our public testimony, it was brought out that some of the citizens that live in a couple of trailer parks that are going to be affected by this assessment are fixed income seniors, I guess is the way I'm going to refer to it. And I'm wondering what the individual impact per lot, I don't have to have the exact amount or anything, but what kind of an impact is this going to have to those residents that live in those situations? And they're probably residents that don't utilize the lake activities like the rest of the folks do. So I'm trying to look for a fairness balance. I want to figure out a way to help these folks clean up the lake the way they'd like to have it cleaned up. But the majority, I think, of the users of that lake come from elsewhere. I don't know where that elsewhere is, and I don't see that they're participating really at all in this cleanup. So I'm trying to figure out a balance between the lake residents paying their fair share, but also the rest of the users. And that might boil down to, I don't know, a fee, a sticker that you need to buy to be on that lake recreating or something, water skiing. So I'm trying to figure out a balance, but my main concern right here with this question is the trailer park residents that are fixed income folks, and in a, sound like a majority of the cases, they were senior citizens. Can you help me on that?
Yeah, yes and no, I guess. I heard similar comments, and what we can do is reach out to the petitioner to try to gather some of that information. I don't know if it's readily available, but yes, I think there were at least one, and it sounded like maybe two mobile home parks on the property that the parcel would receive a fairly significant charge for the special assessment, and it sounded as if that cost would be pushed on to the tenants of that property. So I can certainly reach out to the petitioner on this and ask them to try to get that information for us.
I do think that was a substantial number of those citizens that came forward during the public hearing to object to this assessment because of that scenario that I've laid out. So I need some more information myself to find out what would be fair.
Do you have more questions, Gary?
No, I don't think I'm gonna bug you now, because it doesn't sound like we have any answers to go with the questions that we're asking. So
okay, Ty, you have any more questions? I'm sorry, Gary.
No, I just think we need to have a further discussion at a later date on this.
Ty, any questions or comments?
I have comments. I don't have any questions. You want to get into a discussion about this?
Sure.
Okay. So I've heard three basic realms of argument in all of the public comment and in the emails and whatnot. Most of them, frankly, that I read related to the herbicide issue, which, as we've tried to establish, is not what this is about. It's kind of unfortunate timing that a notice went out about herbicide treatment around the same time, and I think a lot of residents got confused. And I talked to environmental health, had a private briefing with them about what that whole issue is with herbicides, and that it's dealt with through ecology, and so that's, to me, that's an issue for a different day. The second argument was the mobile home impact that Commissioner Edwards made a point about. And then the third one is some environmentally minded citizens were worried about essentially that this is a Band-Aid approach, that essentially it's going to buy 5 to 20 years of relief from toxic algae, but if you don't actually address the phosphorus loading in the lake through a much more comprehensive strategy, you're just basically spending a ton of money on a Band-Aid. Which I agree with 100%, but so I would like to work on a long-term strategy. I've been, they attached some studies, which I reviewed with environmental health folks. It basically identifies that the phosphorus loading in the lake seems to be driven by, number one, agricultural practices within the watershed, number two, untreated stormwater runoff, and number three, failing septics. I definitely want to see the county do a better job with our 57,000 septic systems and getting a more kind of managed approach to how we deal with that. I'm always worried about stormwater runoff and how we can do a better job there. So I want to work with those citizens to work on the long-term issue. But what I never heard from anybody, from any of the comments, was an actual argument that the alum treatment is environmentally damaging in any kind of long-term way or toxic to human. It's basically something that adheres and pulls this stuff down, and again, it's a Band-Aid, but it's not an environmentally damaging process from anyone that I talked to, and I looked at a lot of stuff on this. So that would be my big concern. But without that concern, then I feel like we really need to defer to the elected. I mean, this community formed a special district. They have elected commissioners to make their choices on how they manage their own lake. That is what the whole district is about. That's why it's in statute. If these folks don't like it, they can run for this commissioner of the special district themselves. But as long as what they're asking to do is not toxic or environmentally damaging, and I don't believe there's any evidence that it is, I personally think that I should defer to the decisions made by the special district commissioners, again, who are elected by the community. And so I'm inclined to allow them to do what they're petitioning us to do. And I don't need any more questions answered, and I don't need any more delay. That's what I think I would choose to do.
Okay, so with that, Tim and Romero, how soon would you, or how much time do you need, Tim, to get some answers to the questions that we have to come back so we can make a decision in a timely fashion for the folks at Black Lake?
So let me walk you through what the questions that I have, just to make sure that all of us are on the same page. The questions that I have is what is the overall impact, including the additional assessment? Perhaps a little more detail on the average lakefront owners. As this 575.42 doesn't tell the entire picture, because we don't know how much the annual assessment will be. So it is for the boat launch, the WFW property, just to have a larger understanding by the board to see the overall impact that goes from what to what after the assessment is in place. And also reaching out related to the mobile home parks and the impacts. I believe Tim outlined it very well. There were some concerns from the owners of the mobile home parks because the assessment will be done on those properties, and they will be forced to pass the additional cost to the tenants, because those, I don't believe the mobile home parks as individual parcels. They lease those spaces. So it will be good, as you understand, to have additional information related to what that is, what will be the impact on the additional assessment for the mobile home parks, and maybe simple math to say, you know, if it's, I'm going to use a number, $5,000 additional, and they have 20 tenants, just simple math will be more or less have an idea what will be the impact to those residents. And that's really the only two questions that I got from, I believe, Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Edwards, unless I missed one.
Didn't miss any of mine. Did you miss any of yours, Gary?
No, I think that would suffice. I tend to agree with Commissioner Menser that they do have their district and they've elected folks to do their thing. My big concern, I'm not too concerned about the lake lot owners that utilize the lake. I am concerned about those on fixed income, if there's 2 trailer parks there, for an example. And I am concerned about the long-term plan that Commissioner Menser mentioned, that we should be working towards a solution, as I don't think the users of the lake actually are paying to use the lake, I guess is the bottom. So if you live off the lake, you come and use it all up. It sounds like the locals don't hardly go out during those busy times because it's being used so much. So I just wonder if there isn't a way to collect for the use of the lake by non-residents to help offset some of this cost to the lake owner, lake property owners. So.
Yeah, I believe that will be out of the purview of the Board of County Commissioners, because the WFW owns the boat launch, and if they want to implement a charge to the users, that would be the avenue they may consider. But the county, I don't believe that we have, or the board has ability to implement a user fee on a particular lake.
You're probably right on that. So
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'm good.
Ty, you gave an awesome depiction and summation of this issue. up to and including the long-term plan, but also up to and including what we haven't heard, and that is how alum is the worst thing ever on earth. Because I haven't heard that argument either. But before I vote to approve an ordinance adopting a system of assessment, I just want to have the full picture and give due deference to the staff and to all the folks that we've looked at every intimate detail, intricate detail, especially as it impacts the limited income folks. So I'm not sure it would take that much time to get those answers and then come back for a short 30-minute.
What I can do is, if I'm gonna probably put Tim on the spot, if he has time, I can probably bring this item as part of your agenda setting next Tuesday morning on the area of briefing and decisions pending. And at that point, we can probably spend some time in answering the questions that you had. Will that give you enough time, Tim?
Yes, it would. And I would just add, we have a follow-up presentation tomorrow on the Long Lake issue. And the information you're asking for on the Black Lake current rates and charges, we have it available now. So if there's interest, we could present that information tomorrow and talk about it as well. I'm not sure if I can have any information for you on the question regarding the mobile home parks, but we can certainly try to have that information available. And we could also add into tomorrow's presentation a little bit of information regarding ecology funding for specifically noxious weeds on lakes. So if you have a boat trailer and pay for licensing for that, a portion of that goes to a fund that lake management districts, counties, organizations can apply to for assistance with noxious weeds. So we can talk a little bit more about that as well tomorrow if there's interest.
So Tim, I think we have to be careful. If in fact is the intent to bring additional Black Lake, especially your district information for tomorrow's presentation, we need to amend the agenda. And because the public needs to understand what topics the board needs to discuss.
Understood.
We'll keep them separate, so as not to confuse the public either.
I have a suggestion for something to add on to that discussion if we have it at a later date. I feel like it's important to have a discussion about phosphorus loading into lakes and also internal phosphorus loading, because from what you said, Commissioner Menser, about alum being a Band-Aid to fix a short-term problem, yes and no. A lot of our lakes here in Thurston County are all lowland lakes that used to be mill ponds and have historic phosphorus that's locked in the sediments. So in the case of Black Lake, 65% of the phosphorus that is in the lake is actually internal loading. So once that becomes available through the water column, when lakes go through their natural process and turn over, then all of that phosphorus is food source basically available for cyanobacteria, which are what are causing these algal blooms. So I think it would be good to talk a little lake ecology as well, just to kind of understand what's going on within the system.
Paula, did you get the email from the Citizens for a Clean Black Lake group? And I sent it on to Environmental Health and had a conversation with Patrick Soderberg, but maybe I should have sent it to you. Sounds like I'm asking because they attached a couple of studies that were actually commissioned, and the county had part of it in the special district, and they kind of analyzed the phosphorus. So I'm just wondering if what you're saying is in line with that, or if you dispute some of the findings of those studies, or have you not seen them?
I do not dispute the findings. I know that Herrera did a really comprehensive study.
That's one of them, yep.
But that was very recent. And so their engineers calculated the internal phosphorus loading, and the external phosphorus loading is also very significant. But just the fact that 65% of the phosphorus in the lake is locked in the sediments, as opposed to 35%, which is from stormwater runoff, and 5%, which is from groundwater, means that there's a problem in the lake that needs a more comprehensive management strategy, as opposed to fixing the external sources only. So what we're seeing in Black Lake is that there's a need for both external sources to be controlled as well as internal sources.
Yeah, I'd love to have a briefing about that. or further discussion. Thank you.
So two more things. And when it comes to the individual trailer park residents, it's going to be speculative at best to find out, just using crude raw numbers like Romero did. If it's $5,000 for that property owner, it's presumptuous to think that he would or she would not have some type of a matrix where it'd be a minimal increase, so maybe over a couple of years get up to where it needs to be paid back. So they're not operating at a loss, but we don't know what they're going to do because it's entirely up to them. But also, like Ty said, I defer to the elected board, the independently elected board at Black Lake. I defer to their expertise and knowledge and what's best for the community. But I do want to hear from staff what your recommendation is, option 1, 2, or 3. That means something to me too, staff's recommendation, because you deal in this all the time. And we deal on it once or twice every couple months. So I would like to hear a recommendation from the board or from the staff. Anything else, Ty?
Nope.
Gary, anything else?
No, I think we can wait until later to discuss it.
So I will bring this item for Tuesday morning during your agenda setting.
I do have one question about that. Can I continue there?
Go, yeah, go.
Okay, my concern, when we bring issues forward for discussion to then take an action on, and we do it like next Tuesday and during agenda sessions, it just seems like we never have adequate time to have any kind of a discussion. And I think this merits some pretty serious discussion. Especially, I don't have any idea how many of these senior citizens are out there, but I think it's a big issue on the trailer park lots, for an example. I'm not crazy about the county kicking in another $500,000 over the course of the period of this bond, but I could live with that because it is taxpayer money and taxpayers are using the lake, so you could look at it that way. But I am very hesitant to add an additional burden to fixed income seniors that we're having a tough enough time, seniors are right now as it is, let alone increase their tax bill. So that's where my main concern lies, I guess, right now.
All right. So you have what you did, Romero?
Yes, so I'm hearing a couple of different directions here. I'd like to hear what the board consensus is. What I'm suggesting is to bring this matter next Tuesday morning during your briefing. Hopefully at that time, Tim will have answers to the best of his ability to the 2 questions that I just outlined. And at that point, I will ask the board to provide direction on the options they have been provided to you. But also, I'm hearing from Commissioner Edwards that he would like to extend that to a later date to have more discussion on this. But I don't know how we can get to the point of I think you stated correctly, Commissioner Hutchins, it will be extremely difficult for a staff to determine if the owner of a mobile home park gets assessed to this rate, how they are planning to pass that on to, you know, the tenants. That will be extremely difficult question for staff to answer. The only thing that we can probably do is just give you a sense of an impact by just going through perhaps simple math. By getting to a level of detail to see individual impacts will be extremely difficult for staff to get to that point.
Got it. Well, you have it. You have it then. And Tim, you have what you need?
I do. Thank you.
All right. Well, then
Thank you.
we're going to conclude and adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you all next time for the next one. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.